Hi, everybody. Welcome to the October 30th, 2015 edition of Colorado Inside Out. I'm your host, Dominic Dezzutti. Thank you very much for joining us. Please allow me to first explain my altered look, and you'll see altered looks of the entire panel. In honor of the GOP debate this week in Boulder, and for Halloween, we decided that we'd dress up either as a candidate or a member of the press or something else related to it, and thus explaining my questionable Anderson Cooper hairdo. So with that, let's get a quick take on Denver District Court judge's decision that will allow the Denver Rescue Mission to open its Lawrence Street Community Center. Patty Calhoun, first let us know who you're dressed as and your opinion on the big overturn in the court.
Well, I think it's pretty clear I am the next president of the United States. But as for the overturn, I'm not sure Hillary's paid close attention to this case. I think it's a great thing that they overturned this. Here's the thing, we should have had the fight a long time ago about this. If you have been out in this part of town, you know how badly this day center is needed. It was studied, everyone talked about it. The day center is needed where the people are during the day when they're released from the shelters at night. So hopefully this will give people needed services and get them off the street so that other people can actually walk into their businesses.
David Kopel from the Independence Institute and DU Law School. Let folks know who you're dressed as, which I think it's going to be very obvious for everyone watching. And then also your opinion is this legal battle over? Being Denver District Court, do you think that the Ballpark neighborhood folks who originally brought the suit will, or can they appeal from here? Are they done, or is this not the last we've heard from this?
I'm Bernie Sanders. I'm running for president because we need to stand up to the cronyism that is ruining this country, and you ain't going to solve cronyism by electing the current Republican frontrunner or the current Democratic frontrunner, both of whom are career cronies. I'm running as a socialist because I'm open. I want to be the second socialist president of the United States. Our current president, President Obama, who I will follow up on, joined a socialist party, won its endorsement in 1996, but I'm not going to be timid. I'm not going to be in the closet. What you see is what you get, and I hope I'll earn your vote to be our second socialist president and really make this country great.
That worked very
well. And by the
well.
way, the legal decision was correct. The Denver city attorney came in with new information, and so the judge changed his mind based on the new information. And given that, it seems like a legally solid decision from a judge who has a good reputation as ruling on the facts and the evidence and not his personal predilections.
Ed Sealer from Denver Business Journal. Following David Kopel is always a challenge in this show, so I already respect you giving it the best shot. Let folks know who you're dressed up as, and then let us know what you think about the big court decision.
Well, I'd like to just say that I'm pretty taken aback by Secretary Clinton's remark that she's going to be the next president. I think clearly Senator Rubio will be the next president. When you look at this fight, it seems like it's part of the bigger picture of what's going on in Denver right now. Is that, the Denver city officials are trying to find some way to deal with the homeless issue, and they're getting beaten back by people of different opinions about this issue in every way. So I think it's interesting to see the decision go in this favor, and I think it'll be part of a bigger solution that they're working on right now.
And rounding out our panel, Susan Green, editor of ColoradoIndependent.com. Let us know how you're dressed and wrap up the topic for us.
Can't you tell? What? It's not obvious?
It's pretty cool. It is pretty cool.
I am the beleaguered media. I'm rude. I'm a commie pinko. I'm pushy. And I'm struggling to stay afloat.
I like that.
I'm a little deflated, and it's really quite tiring and exhausting trying to stay afloat. The ruling, kudos to Judge Mullins for overturning his own decision, and to the rescue mission for this really fabulous and much needed day center, and a big raspberry to the residents of the Ballpark neighborhood. I don't know what they were thinking. Really, there's obviously quite a need for these day services in the neighborhood. And I'm from Detroit, and the day before Halloween in Detroit, we celebrate a different kind of holiday called Devil's Night, and I kind of think those residents of Ballpark need some toilet papering and soaping for trying to really shut out all the homeless folks who really need those day services in their neighborhood.
CNBC's Republican presidential debate held in Boulder this week gave Senators Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz a bump in the headlines and created some criticism over how the network handled questions. The National Republican Party announced on Friday that they will not partner with NBC News for a February debate, citing concerns over how the CNBC debate was handled. Patty, what were your impressions of how the debate went, especially being held here in Boulder?
Well, I'd first like to point out that this opens things up for Colorado Public Television. Why don't we host the debate in February?
It's a great
idea. We
idea.
could not do a worse job than CNBC had done. Not only the moderating system doesn't work when you have 10 people on a stage and 3 people throwing out questions, one of whom I have to, in full disclosure, Carl Quintanilla was a former Westward intern. He learned nothing from us. I can tell you that right now. You cannot blame him for us. But it was a fascinating thing to watch no matter what, because you had certain people broke out of the pack in ways they hadn't been able to break out before. Loved hearing Chris Christie just go to town on the fantasy football thing. There were some great zingers that people got off. There were Ted Cruz, even though I didn't agree with the word he said, his attacks on the media were fascinating. The fact that he did offer Carl Quintanilla a pot brownie was also very interesting. So, and that we didn't pay, you didn't hear as much from Donald Trump as in previous debates. You kind of heard a little more from Ben Carson. He wasn't asleep, apparently. And although I couldn't believe it when I heard at the end that Carly Fiorina had the most time, because she didn't seem to say that much that resonated. But I thought it gave us a real look at a lot of the other candidates, and also really the media bashing showed that you can unite the Republicans on at least one issue.
That certainly seemed to be the great unifier of the debate and offered a real platform. David, what did you think of the candidates that took advantage of, I guess, really how poorly CNBC handled the debate? They really grabbed that mantle and used it as a weapon, and quite effectively in Senator Cruz and Senator Rubio's case.
Well, I don't think anybody predicted at the start of this presidential campaign that the first candidate to give a shout out to famous Colorado brownies was going to be Ted Cruz. and that actually says something positive about his potential viability if he wins the nomination in the general election. He is, of course, campaigning as a very hardcore conservative, and Ronald Reagan shows you can be elected if you're that, but it has to be with a persona that's not all angry and negative, and that was a big part of Reagan's shift in 80 to that more positive approach. And so this could be a step in that direction for Ted Cruz. The debate moderators should ask tough questions, but these guys were not only interrupting the candidates all the time in very stupid and pointless ways, and when a guy from New Jersey tells you you're being rude, you've got very, very far over the line. These are questions that seem as if the panel of moderators struck me as guys that, like, sometimes they turn on The View in the morning and they think, oh man, this is too much intellectual policy wonk stuff for me. I gotta I'm gonna change this to talk about something I'm interested in. So in a debate that was supposed to be about economics and the economy, no serious getting into Colorado's tax growth and the economic effects of marijuana here, completely stupid questions about people. Rubio, why did you take money out of your IRA? Your tax plan cuts. The Harwood's question on that was a lie by his own standards, because it was based on a story he'd written previously, for which he had issued a correction, and then he persisted in sticking with this lie during the whole thing. It was so incredibly shallow, and so therefore you have to hand it to CNBC, because nobody predicted before this debate began that in all this bitterly partisan atmosphere in this country, that at least for one night, it would bring together everybody. All the country recognized that these guys are a bunch of dolts and the worst moderators literally in the history of any presidential debate in American history. So maybe we can't all agree about taxes, but at least we did come together, united as a nation, on one important issue that night.
Finally, the unifying of America coming across the bashing of CNBC moderators. Ed, I'm curious to find out what you felt about the debate. If anyone got a substantive bump? I mean, is it going to be more than just this news cycle that we'll get any of the candidates from this particular debate?
Well, what I think the debate lacked in bringing issues forward, and let's be clear, the debate should always be about issues because this is what people should be voting on. I think it made up for in kind of bringing some character forward in watching how the candidates reacted to these asinine questions, both from the panelists and from each other at times. I think, and it's not just because I'm playing him, but I think Senator Rubio really got the biggest bump out of this. I mean, when he rose above, not just, hey, why is it your turn to run? But I mean, kind of the Jeb Bush questioning of him too. And really, I think he kind of put himself forward as I'm going to have a vision. I'm not just going to be no on everything. And I think that's what too many of these candidates have been seen as so far, as being anti-Obama, anti-Clinton, anti-this. I think Rubio really took steps to putting himself forward as being pro-something rather than anti-something. I think, and I don't know how much of a bump he can have, I think this continued to show Chris Christie's character as well. I think it's one thing everybody kind of lashed out at some of the questions, but Christie really put forward this persona that he's a serious guy in the room. I think that Bridgegate hurt that. I think that people looked at him like he was some, nice suit-wearing mobster that they always imagined would come out of New Jersey. But I mean, he's really starting to come forward as I'm going to talk about the issues type of guy. And I think that really showed forward too. And though I'm not sure anyone in America actually watched it, I think anybody who saw the undercard should start asking, why isn't Lindsey Graham on the big stage right now? I think he has started to put forward, especially in the foreign policy realm, some issues that others aren't talking about as well. So I think there are a couple people that could come out of this, and by the building up of a Rubio, of a Christie, of somebody else, I think you're going to start seeing some of the character or some of the support erode from the Trumps and the Carsons, who are basically getting by on their personas right now. As soon as America sees that others have personas, they might want to go for someone a little more experienced.
Sure. Susan, I understood how that both Senator Rubio and Senator Cruz could take advantage of calling the mainstream media the pack for the Democrats. That's going to play well in the Republican primary, but that completely goes away for any sort of general election point. Did you see anybody in the debate score any points that actually might be helpful next year at this time, the general election point?
Not so much. I mean, this was really about them bashing each other and bashing the media, which, it's important. This costume is kind of, meant for a laugh on some level, but really dead serious. I mean, the thunderous applause, the anti-media applause in that room, even after they cut to a commercial break, I think should be concerning to everyone, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, and certainly us, the news media. Something's funky about these candidates' worldview. I'm sorry, my wig and my Band-Aids are getting in my way. When they think that they portray CNBC, which bows every hour on the hour to the gods of Wall Street, they portray that as a lefty, a tool of the left, political left in this country. I mean, that's just whacked out. And the fact that the audience, which was comprised mostly of Republicans, responded to that so thunderously is scary. I mean, that's an old tool. We've seen that over and over again. John McCain certainly perfected this anti-media rhetoric. Newt Gingrich perfected the anti-media rhetoric in 2012, and it dates way back to before the Third Reich and Mussolini, when you blame the Jews and you blame the media, and often you blame the Jews in the media. And I think it's cause for a lot of concern for all of us. So I want people to take this costume really seriously. Really, come to our rescue, please.
The purple Band-Aid aside, yeah, I got your point. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Let's get to some local stuff. Governor Hickenlooper and Attorney General Cynthia Coffman are at odds this week over the implementation of the Clean Power Plan. Hickenlooper announced on Monday that he will seek the state Supreme Court's opinion in challenging Coffman's joining 24 states in a lawsuit against the EPA's plan. David, this surrounds the Clean Power Plan from the Obama administration that really targets a lot of coal usage, which is big here in Colorado and many other states. But the governor fighting the attorney general of one state on who can sue what, where do you think this is likely to land?
He has not yet written this letter to the Colorado Supreme Court, which he said he was going to do on Monday. It'll be interesting to see what's in it. He has some big problems with this. in Colorado, as in most of the country, the Attorney General is, in New Jersey, the Attorney General is appointed by the governor. Everywhere else, the Attorney General is an elected, independent, constitutional officer chosen by the people to represent them. In 2010, I debated Jane Dubofsky, former Colorado Supreme Court Justice, on Obamacare, and she was criticizing Attorney General Suthers for having joined the multi-state suit against it. And she also said, well, she thought it was a stupid suit and had no chance of success. Not an entirely correct prediction. She also very firmly said that it was unquestionable that the Attorney General had the legal authority to do that, and in fact, the law in Colorado about that was the strongest in the entire country. We've had many cases where attorneys general have been involved in lawsuits on their own initiative where the governor was not on the same policy view on that. So I think that it's something of a desperate move on the governor's part to try this.
Ed, did you find it surprising to see Governor Hickenlooper's announcement?
A little bit. I mean, especially because Hickenlooper didn't take on Suthers when he did this. Now, admittedly, Suthers filed that lawsuit while Ritter was still governor, but he wasn't up for taking him on there because we have a little bit of precedent. It's a different situation, but this goes back to Ken Salazar back in 2003 suing the Secretary of State over implementation of the redistricting rules. And again, different situation, suing a state official, suing the government, but clearly the Attorney General has shown their mettle in this state before. And the last thing is worth noting is that this is technically the Attorney General's power. I mean, the Attorney General is the chief court officer, for lack of a better description, in what they do as a job. When she says, I'm suing on behalf of the people of Colorado, we do have to remember, we elected her to be the chief legal officer for this state. I think too many people vote in the down ballot races based on party, and they don't realize I'm electing somebody who has a very specific job here. And maybe it should at least get people thinking about, if you don't like what Cynthia Coffman did, we should question our attorney generals more often in the future about where they're going to stand with governors and the federal government.
Susan, Governor Hickenlooper accused Cynthia Coffman of politicizing the issue with this lawsuit. Is he politicizing the issue by trying to challenge it?
I don't think so. I mean, her argument for doing this is the government has overreached, the federal government, D.C. has overreached with this legislation, and she's representing the will of Coloradans. On this issue, Coloradans voted in 2004 to pass a constitutional ballot measure creating clean energy standards. We've risen up as a clean energy economy. We tightened those standards in 2013. It's clearly the will of this state and the will of our voters and the will of our legislature to have these standards. So her point about it being overreaching, I think, is out of tune with the people of Colorado. What's more is, yes, attorneys general of both parties have gone against the governor in the history of this state. I think what's different about this situation is that she did it in a very rogue, very uncollaborative, not communicating kind of way. She just went ahead and did it. And we know from documents that she's consulted with out-of-state, especially Texas, energy company lobbyists who are not registered in Colorado in working up to her participation in this lawsuit. And I think the real question is, what is she actually jockeying for politically? Like, she's toast. This woman is toast. She's been involved in a major scandal involving alleged blackmailing of the party chairman this year. Nobody ever discusses her as a viable candidate for anything higher than the office she holds. And nobody seems to be able to get along with her. And so I don't know, if this is a political stunt, I don't know what she's posturing for, because I don't think she has a future beyond this office.
Patty, you think we're about to see more fireworks between the AG and the governor?
Not a public display of fireworks, I'm guessing. I think they both pulled political moves here. I mean, Cynthia Coffman was not alone. She did join with 24 other states in this move. Hickenlooper, who has had oil and gas commission hearings, he's been having clean air hearings, he has just did his climate change report. I mean, clearly he cares about the environment. This was not a happy move for him to see his AG come forward with. So whether he ever actually sends that letter to the Colorado Supreme Court or not, he's made his displeasure clear, and we'll continue to be talking about the environment for the next 100 years here in Colorado.
That's for sure. Let's get a quick take on this last one. With the election just a week away, tensions continue to rise in the Jeffco school board race. This week's finance reports show close to $500,000 already spent throughout the campaigns associated with the recall. Ed, you're one of our political journalists out there in the field. What's your feel as we're just a few days from Election Day?
You know, it's pretty hard to tell because this is largely without precedent, seeing a school board race and a recall going on like this. If you go back to the 2013 recalls of Senators John Morse and Angela Herone, I think one of the notable features was the low turnout, which meant that only the people who were angry about Morse and Herone came out for that. I think this one will be determined by turnout. I think if you're already seeing about 25% of the vote come out, and that's going to rise with the same-day voting. If a lot of people come out, I think that's going to mean that some conservatives have jumped onto this and come out and decided to defend them. I think it's going to be tough to see this recall proceeding. But again, we're in uncharted waters.
Susan, your quick take on this.
Yeah, there's an old adage about Jefferson County, where Jefferson County goes, so goes the nation. And there's not a lot of polling on this. It's a equally divided a third Republican, Democrat and independent area. And what we're seeing is what we're seeing, and this is a race that I think Ballotpedia listed as the race to watch in the country this year, exceeding races that are much higher ticket in other states. And I think the reason why is because Jeffco has established itself with all of this infighting and all this vitriol as the most watched, most controversial school board in the nation. And a lot of it has to do with the influx of money from both sides, from the Koch brothers and from the unions. I think what's relevant about this, and it's unclear again who's going to win or how it's going to turn, but because there are other districts in Colorado and there are other districts around the nation that have followed this Jeffco model, this kind of infiltration of the school board and this backlash against it, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that around the country later next year and in years to come.
Patty, your thoughts?
Well, it's certainly fueled by huge amounts of money coming in from inside. I know we don't have much time. I would say the turnout is going to decide everything in this election because there's so many things with 2C, with Happy Haynes on the Denver School Board. There are a lot of controversial issues, and they can be swayed so quickly just by the turnout. So if you haven't voted yet, get out and vote. No matter what your position, get involved.
Dave, wrap it up for us.
The Independence Institute has been publicly involved in this on the side of the pro-reform view. I think if the election had been held on August 1st, the anti-reform side would have won, but I think that gap is closing, and the momentum is pro-reform, and I'd agree with everyone that it's very likely to be a close race, and turnout will be important.
Let's get to our favorite part of the show, Disgrace of the Week, besides our outfits. Let's, Patty, start us off.
Whether they're liberal or conservative, we would like the media to be competent, and we did not see that from CNBC. But just as a reminder that things have been worse, this week we saw Klondike, the polar bear, pass away. Those of you who were in Colorado 30 years ago remember the media hysteria over Klondike and Snow, the polar bears. So the media actually has been worse.
David.
The budget deal passed by the House, which takes all the restraint off of spending for the last 2 years. And it's a good example of why people all across the political spectrum are understanding that the system is run by Washington, D.C. for the benefit of the insiders, while just piling us with more and more debt and completely phony purported reductions in spending.
Ed.
Harry Reid for calling on me, Senator Marco Rubio, to resign. Look, I'm all for having a discussion about office holders and their duty to that office when they are seeking another office. But when Harry Reid comes out and tells him to resign after backing Barack Obama in 2007, 2008, when Obama missed twice as high a percentage of votes in the Senate as Rubio is missing now, let's just not be a hypocrite about this.
That's a tough to ask in Washington, D.C. there, Senator Rubio. Susan, your disgrace of the week.
Senator, you ignorant slut. This is a double whammy. It's the GOP candidates for lying through their teeth at points during that debate, and also CNBC for not doing enough homework to catch them on it. And I'm talking about Trump's comments about Zuckerberg. I'm talking about Carson's comments about his quacky nutritional supplement. I think really both of them, both sides, need to stick to the facts, need to stick to public policy. And the RNC for boycotting the NBC, the next debate, because of what happened here, I just think is cowardly.
They say something nice about somebody? Patty?
It's an end of an era in Northwest Denver. The Aguirre family, who owned Rosalinda's Mexican Cafe, opened it over 30 years ago, back when that was still the North Side, back when it was a Mexican neighborhood. They have fed hundreds of thousands of people over Thanksgiving for free. They've just been a wonderful role model and been there for 3 decades as it turned from the North Side into low-high in a very gentrified area. Today's the last day at that restaurant, and I wish the family the best.
David?
Well, I got press credentials for the debate, so I got into the spin room and could actually see some of the candidates in person. And the undeniable fact is that Donald Trump truly has outstanding hair, especially for a man of his age.
Ed?
China doesn't do a lot of things right, but its decision this week to end its one-child policy, maybe the most repressive anti-human rights policy in the world, was a smart move on the country's part.
Susan?
Clarence Moses-El, he's Colorado prisoner 60183. He's been in for 29 years for an assault it looks like he didn't commit. He's been waiting for months and months for a judge to decide whether to overturn his conviction. He had a terrible week health-wise this week, and everybody's hoping for his good health and for a quick decision.
And I want to say thank you to all the folks in the crew, and especially my producer, Gabrielle Bryant, who sat in this host position for the last 3 weeks while I was on vacation. Thank you very much for doing a fantastic job. And of course, according to Tim Jackson, our Twitter feed says, you know, it should probably be in this seat more often. I couldn't agree more. So thank you for all the help, and thank you, Tim Jackson, for all your support on Twitter. That's all the time we have tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Tune in Tuesday at 7 p.m. for Street Level. Host Eden Lang takes us to the Denver Performing Arts Complex. Remember that you can catch any part of the show or CIO postgame online, and be sure to check out the CIO podcast on iTunes. For everyone here at Channel 12, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks very much for watching. Good night.
My name is Sarah Newberry, and I am the floor director here for Colorado Inside Out and Colorado Public 12. And what I mainly do is I am the go-between the control room and the talent. So I am listening in on my headset, and they are giving me direction on when to tell the talent to stand by, whether or not I need them to read through their script, whether or not they need to look at a certain camera. They tell me, and then I will go ahead and relay that onto the talent.
Here we go. Studio, are you ready?
Yes, sir. We're ready on the fly. So one of the responsibilities of the floor director is making sure everything on the floor is in its place and ready to go for the television show that we're going to take. So that includes making sure set pieces are correctly placed on the floor, lighting is in the correct place, and shooting the correct places. Set pieces, which tables and chairs, they are in not only in alignment with the camera, but in alignment with the set pieces behind them. Another one of the things I like to do, and it is part of the floor director's job, is to make sure all of the talent is properly mic'd and ready to go, what we call camera ready. So if they need a little makeup, they have water available to take a sip, they have the correct script in front of them, and they're seated in the correct chair. Another one of the things that we want to do is we want to make sure everyone is looking good for television. My motto is if they don't look good, I don't look good. And my name's on the credits, so I want to make sure everybody on set is looking their best. So I make sure everybody's hair is set in case they have a couple of flyaways, get those down. Everyone has a tendency to look a little shiny on TV, so we always have a little bit of powder, and I have it marked for this is my lightest powder. So just have a little powder handy, knock down some of the shine, and just make sure overall that everybody looks and feels their best so that they can present themselves great on TV, which makes for a great story, which makes for a great show. So that when the all-important time comes and the director is in my ear saying,
Floor director ready for mic and cue.
stand by, we're gonna start in 5, 4, 3, and I get them going. So I'll see you on the next episode of Colorado Inside Out.
I have no idea. Why do elephants paint their toenails red?
To hide in cherry trees. No, wait, no, I know it. Okay. No, wait. Have you ever seen an elephant in a cherry tree?
I have not.
Apparently it's because you never see one.
Edition of Colorado Inside Out Postgame. On special assignment, I am your moderator, Anderson Cooper. We have with us tonight an illustrious panel of presidential candidates and special guests to give us their opinion of the questions that we have procured from our CNN New York Times Tostitos Twitter feed. We're hoping to get their insightful answers to these questions as they've come to this studio here in Denver, Colorado, and we're here to give to you, all of our viewers. Let me first start with our first guest, former Senator, former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton. Our viewers want to know from our Twitter feed, while you have answered a lot of questions about Benghazi, you have not answered the question about the fact that Walk Like an Egyptian is still on your Zoom player. Do you care now to answer those questions?
You know, I am so glad you asked me that question, Anderson, because I'm going to ignore it completely. You know, I'm so glad I can give the Republicans something to unite. They're really not my enemies. I made that joke before. But they can unite around me. They can talk about me at the debate if anyone was watching the debate this week, because as you know, you would have been much better off watching the second game of the World Series. But I am so glad to be here. And by Bernie, I'm so glad to see you again. And you're right. No one cares about my emails. No one cares about them. So anyway, we care about the issues. I'd like to point out you've been a public figure longer than I have, Bernie, but no one cares about the issues, and I just hope you all vote for me, and we'll march to victory next year.
And as previewed by Mrs. Clinton, we have our next guest, Senator Bernie Sanders. We're very happy to have him here. Mr. Sanders, we have from our Twitter feed, again from the CNN New York Times Tostitos Twitter feed, they want to know if there's actually any truth to the reports that there's any connection between a Colonel Sanders and Bernie Sanders, hair notwithstanding. Your thoughts, sir?
I've been elected senator from Vermont. Colonel Sanders is from Kentucky. I don't know if there's a relation when my ancestors got off the boat, but I think I'm going to win the support of Colonel Sanders supporters because I can speak up for the fairness and against the crony corporate capitalists who are running most of the Democratic Party and all of the Republican Party. And yes, we get criticized, the Republican debate, John Kasich says, no chicken in every pot. Well, I'm in favor of working people in Vermont and Kentucky and throughout this country having chickens. You know, the problem with why people don't have enough chickens is corporate control of agriculture. When I took my honeymoon to the Soviet Union, I saw a different system where agriculture is run for the people by an efficient government that makes sure everybody gets chickens. And if you want your Colonel Sanders chicken for free, I'm going to give it to you by taking money away from the billionaires and those who collude with them, such as somebody sitting right next to me.
Again, with a calm point of view, we thank Senator Sanders. Up next in our panel, we're very happy to have from the other party running for president, Senator Marco Rubio. Again, back to our Twitter feed, the question we have is, the most famous part of your platform that people, at least on our Twitter feed, have noticed is that they have questions that, are you actually sponsoring the brand of bottled water that you referenced in your most famous speech on national television?
Somebody must have told you that asking a dumbass question would help your show. No, I'm not sponsoring this bottle of water. What I'm sponsoring is a chance for America to become exceptional again. I mean, look at this table. There's nothing exceptional about this table, other than it's exceptional the fact that she's still married to the guy she's married to. No. What we need to do is we need to bring people together over issues like water. This is the kind of thing that should be available to everyone, regardless of class or race or age here in America. And, I mean, this guy, he wants to make it so that only he controls the water. I mean, he doesn't care if there are companies that are making money and that are helping people pay their bills. He just wants some bureaucrat in D.C. or whatever Canadian province he lives in to control this water. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Sir Rui. We appreciate you being here. And finally, to include our panel, we felt, especially after the CNBC debate, of how bad the mainstream media, the beleaguered media, if you will, has been treated, that they deserve a seat on this panel. So we go to now, the question we have is, are you truly the PAC for the Democratic Party, as was proven by the illustrious panel at the debate?
Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Look, we are the beleaguered media, and we're kind of bummed that Jeb didn't show up tonight because I wanted to give him a big warm kiss. A big warm kiss. Hillary, I have a question for you. Boxers or briefs? Boxers or briefs?
I wear
Forget
boxers.
it. I don't want to hear what you have to say. I'm sorry. Colonel Sanders, what is your position on Chick-fil-A?
Is that a company? They're a business? Then they're probably bad.
Don't you own that? You own a chicken place, right?
The other chicken
Colonel.
place.
I don't think it was a Chick-fil-A.
It's not Chick-fil-A?
But no, I'm against it. If it's owned by
okay.
business, no. We should be like Denmark, where the government provides people with all the chicken they need.
How do you eat your Oreos?
Do I have to take questions from this left-wing pack right here?
Oh, Marco, big warm kiss. Mwah.
Clearly a fantastic production brought to you again by a very weak impression of Anderson Cooper and all the folks here at Colorado Inside Out. We hope you, despite this, still continue to tune in to Colorado Inside Out right here on Channel 12. For everybody here, I'm Anderson Cooper. Thanks very much for watching.